Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We are here with Chastity Jensen and Max Notice with PandoLogic and Wade and Wendy. We are going to be talking about the new power couple, and I love the way that we've titled this because it is truly a powerful combination. AI-enabled programmatic job advertisement and conversational AI put together means some pretty awesome stuff. I am going to walk through our housekeeping items just to let everybody know before we get started. You are on listen only mode, which means that you can hear us, but we cannot hear you. That's okay. If you have any questions, just pop them into the questions panel to your right, and we will send those to Chastity, William, and Max. Um, you will receive a copy of this slide deck and a few really cool items after the webinar, so please keep an eye on your inbox for those. Please share. Use the hashtag #OurDaily. Share all over social media. Just because we've started doesn't mean you can't. People can't join. So I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to William, Chastity, and Max, and let you guys log in, get settled in. Thank you for being here. Hey, William.
Well, Ashley, thank you so much for the introduction. And I agree, this is a wonderful combination. When it was first announced, I've known both companies for a long time, and it's just not just a beautiful combination of technology, but also a beautiful combination of company cultures. You've really got the best of breed in two different areas that are really it's market changing, and it's chocolate and peanut butter. Like who doesn't like that? So I can't wait to get into the slide deck and talk to both Max and Chastity a little bit about what they see, and also I'll take a little bit. We're gonna, with this webinar being a little bit different, because we want to, both with conversational AI and with programmatic, there's a bit of mystique. And so we thought it was really important with this one to actually show software. So we're gonna do some traditional slides and go through some things that are really important, but also we're gonna show some software, which I think is really good for the audience, and it's really good for people to see, kind of also to demystify some of that stuff. So Chastity, I know that you want to kind of kick us off and take us into some of the PowerPoint stuff. So why don't we start there? And then I can't wait to get into the live software, because I think that it's also kind of eye-opening for folks to be able to see that stuff. So takeaways?
Awesome. Thanks so much, William. I appreciate it. We've got a lot of awesome stuff going on here at PandoLogic. So we're just pleased as we can be to be here with you today and go through that. We're going to start off by talking a little bit about what we're seeing in the market. None of this is going to be a surprise to you in terms of some of the challenges post-COVID, but then ease our way into what's going on at PandoLogic and why this partnership with Wade and Wendy just makes sense. As Ashley had mentioned, if you guys have questions or anything, pop those in the chat. We're going to be watching those, monitoring those as we go along, and we want to answer those questions for you as they're top of mind. So don't be shy. So yeah, with that being said, let's jump in. Elena, I know you're driving the slide deck there. It's been 18 months since we first felt the impact of COVID-19 on the world. While we've been able to put some of those challenges behind us in the past 18 months, the labor market still remains sick with the virus. And not to be kitschy, but we're seeing it. There's a real-time impact of that lag. Priorities have shifted. The way we work has shifted. The workers have been forced to choose between the safety of being home or the risk that is accompanied by being out on the front lines. Many of you likely have experienced that as well, depending on the industry that you're in. But at the same time, there's also the importance of being home to take care of children, the sick, the elderly. What that means is 3.5 million workers have exited the workforce in the past 18 months. So now, even though the world is coming back, companies are posting job openings in record numbers, applicant activity is at record lows. In fact, we're seeing and hearing from our ATS partners that while job openings increased by 35%, applications are still down by over 20%. William, I know everyone was shocked by the April BLS numbers, and May was really only marginally better. I'd love to hear your thoughts here in terms of some of those challenges and how leaders are thinking through mapping out a recovery plan.
I think it's a fantastic question. I think one of the things when you talk to HR is they're not quite sure how to come back. You know, there's still kind of a little bit of trepidation. They know that the economy is getting better. Like everyone can kind of feel that. Everyone can kind of feel the ice breaking, and so they know that the economy is coming, and they feel it. And so people are taking vacations, and so like they can kind of feel like you're quote unquote getting back to a normal-ish. But the return to work in terms of a hybrid workplace and a workforce, no one's got that figured out. And I think that from an HR perspective, which obviously gets into talent acquisition, I think that's the biggest barrier is people are sitting there going, we know that we know that it's coming back. We can feel it's coming back. We just bought a new car. We're going on a vacation. Things are getting better. But okay, now what is better? And what does that mean for the workforce? In fact, I was thinking about the best places to work awards that I used to accumulate when I ran an agency, and like best place, like just the idea of place. What is place now with work from home and remote? So I think that it's that hesitation that it might be at the C-suite too. So let's not just think about HR and TA, but it might be at the C-suite going, okay, we told everybody we were going to be remote forever. Well, now we have some employees that want to come back to work or come back to the headquarters. Now what do? I don't think anybody's got that figured out. So I think that's created a kind of a hesitation moment.
Yeah, that's great. You're spot on. And when you think about the unprecedented changes that we're facing, right, and you talked about even up at the C-suite level, the new challenges haven't replaced the old ones, right? It has just compounded with the challenges that their TA has historically been faced with, right? And so in our world, we're thinking about it in terms of, challenges that have always existed, like job ad targeting, retargeting, budget allocation. And again, this goes up to the C-suite level, workforce planning, the effectiveness of what you're doing. Specifically, when we're talking about programmatic at the campaign level, how to predict that performance, right? How do you get ahead of that? And then, tactical things like display ads and job ad classification and all those things that exist in our world. All those things still exist. So, William, to your point, talent acquisition leaders are being challenged now to map out a recovery plan without not knowing, what that looks like, right? One that undoubtedly involves digital transformation. So minimizing the supply and demand delta so that you can hire faster, you can hire better, you can predict better. And because this transformation is imminent, we're really on the forefront of a revolution. We know that we're on the forefront of a revolution. It's not just our opinion either. I think everyone on this call is likely familiar with Madeline Morano of Aptitude Research, and she said it really well. We're entering one of the hottest job markets in over a decade, making the need to recruit intelligently and hire quickly crucial to organizational viability. So the world is forcing us to reimagine what it means to discover quality talent, how to engage quality talent. Programmatic job advertising, conversational AI are at the forefront of today's revolution. I mean, this is the leading edge of what's next for our organizations. It's disrupting things like how organizations network, how they source, engage, how they hire. So when you combine AI-enabled programmatic job advertising and the personal engagement that conversational AI provides, the outcome is the highest possible volume of qualified applicants without the inherent bias from human intervention. So just think about that for a minute and think about what that means. And I imagine the next logical question from all of you is, okay, what's programmatic, right? Some of you may have had exposure to it, some of you may have not. But programmatic in its simplest form is leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning to buy, place, and optimize your job ads in real time. So instead of a person negotiating preset prices, guessing where and when to post jobs, manually managing the vendors that you work with, you've got an automated way to do that now. But let's take a step back. Let's look at it from a much broader perspective, and I think it's a little bit easier this way to get your arms around it. You're already using programmatic today, even if you don't even realize it. I'll give you an example. If you use Amazon, you're using programmatic. And that's kind of a hard thing to, conceptualize. Some of us probably are using it more than others. I may or may not know my delivery driver's birthday and kid's name, but I'm not going to openly admit that. But let me explain what that means. So in the past, if you think about what life was like before Amazon, you decided you wanted to buy something like a golf club, for example. You went to a few different locations with a certain geographical area to try and find a few different drivers. Let's say you pick 4. You choose one, you buy it, you go home. Pretty simple. But today, if you need something, you go to Amazon, right? That's always my go-to. And that's not a shameless plug for Amazon, I promise. It's just super convenient. But those same 4 clubs are there, right? You might have found those in the past, but so are 100 others that you have access to. So it's the same principle, but just applied to recruitment marketing. So rather than the right ad being surfaced to the right consumer, we're making all the right connections for employers and candidates, employers to find the candidates that they're looking for with the right ad in the right place at the right time for the right price. Now, William, I know you and I talked about this a little bit, but I don't want to mislead the team by stating that this is explicitly for employers. We can also do this in a one-to-many setting.
Right.
So this does apply, for staffing, for RPO.
That's right.
There's a variety of applications here, not just on the direct employer side.
Yeah.
William, anything you want to add there?
For the folks that are corporate, the reframe is that you think of media when the hiring manager says, okay, here's a rec, and you think to yourself, okay, this is a software engineer, it's a front end developer, they need to have a computer science degree, but we also want them to have a mechanical engineering kind of background, or at least some work experience. Well, all of that stuff, those attributes of what makes that job and what you need in those candidates, it's thinking about, okay, to drive the quality traffic that Chastity and Max both care about, you've got to put budget against. Well, how do you know to drive 1,000 quality candidates through the front end of their pipeline? How do you know how to price that? How do you know how to create a budget for that? So just thinking of that and conceptualizing the way that consumer marketers do is we want to drive sales, so we put money into marketing to then drive sales. There's kind of a one-to-one relationship. So I think the one thing that if as you're listening to this and you're thinking about programmatic, one of the shifts I think that we all need to make is that when you're given a rec, you automatically start thinking, okay, there's a budget that needs to be associated to this to drive the right traffic. And as to your point on one-to-many, so for those that are working in the staffing and the RPO market that are working thousands of recs, this works even more so there, because you can manage multiple clients through one platform. So again, kind of a genius thing, so you can manage not only all of those different accounts and clients, but also all those different jobs and the things that you need to drive quality traffic. And again, the emphasis that I think Max, Chastity, and I keep coming back to is it's not just driving volume. Like that'd be great if this was 15 years ago. Do we need more people to apply? You need the right people to apply. You need quality traffic on the front end of your pipeline, and then everything else you need from that. You can then obviously Max is going to take us into the conversation AI piece, but you need quality traffic to start with.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And actually, that's a great segue into sharing a little bit about that quality element of it. We've talked about how to uncover the candidates that you're seeking. But what does that look like when you bring the candidate into the conversation, both from a quality standpoint, but also an experiential standpoint? Max, would love for you to talk with us a little bit about conversational AI and share your insight.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a couple of buzzwords in there. What is conversational AI? And the way that we kind of break it down is that AI, artificial intelligence, is the ability to continuously learn through data, through objective experiences, to be able to improve experiences for people. And so bringing that technology, the ability to learn organically through action, that's where the conversational piece comes in. So for the past, I think, over 5 years, Wade and Wendy has been facilitating these AI conversations where it's an automated recruiter speaking with candidates to learn about their backgrounds, tell them about different job opportunities. But from that, over the past 5 years, also to learn from those experiences and conversations and skill sets, things that are really objective in the recruiting conversation. We're able to learn about those things and the trends and ebbs and flows of the recruiting world, but not only that, of course, improving the candidate experience, making sure that when a candidate clicks to engage about a role, whatever leg of the journey this may be on, that they're able to be greeted, to have, round the clock service of really enjoyable, engaging, inviting conversation. I think a lot of the time, even myself, when I hear some of these terms like conversational AI, I think of like the bot that you have to talk to when you change your flight, and it's just awful. It's awful. This is not that. It's a totally different ballgame. It's a different beast. So moving on to this slide appropriately, we use AI every day in our lives. I just got a new cell phone, and it says, after 24 hours of using your phone, we can serve up the right apps that you use every day. It's the same technology. There's really not much difference to it. But what we've done over here at Wade and Wendy that I think really sets us apart is that we've put so much effort into making sure that this experience is routable, is dynamic, isn't stagnant for the expected conversation. So when we put conversational AI in front of these job ads, in front of these posts that PandoLogic is putting out there are a couple of things that are happening. One, it is significantly easier for a candidate to find the position. They are targeted for this role based on PandoLogic's algorithm. So you're making it easier for them to find the role. Beyond that, at a point where people are typically clicking and then dumping their information and their resume into an apply, and they forget as they apply to 50 to 100 roles in a day, when they click a role supported by PandoLogic now, instead of that blank info dump, they can be brought to a chat with this AI recruiter who's branded on behalf of the company and there to tell you about the role, get you excited about it, qualify you, and really take those first steps that a recruiter would take. Those same oftentimes repetitive conversations we can facilitate when it's convenient for the candidate to educate them about the role, and really most importantly, to make the opportunity stand out compared to the many, many others in the crowd. And then as a recruiting organization, you're able to receive information about these candidates, who's bringing what skills to the table and whatnot, without any interference about what is their name, what is their geography, or anything unrelated that can unintentionally affect our decision to bring the right folks into our organizations. So it's quite powerful, and it packs like a 1-2 punch of bringing people to your jobs, easier and more efficiently, and then receiving them in a significantly more empathetic and personalized manner than I've ever seen before.
Max, one of the things I love about what you've brought people into is you're meeting people where they are. You're meeting them on mobile, you're meeting them in text, you're meeting them in a way that we're already accustomed to. Chastity's already brought us into this. You're doing this already in the consumer world, in just your day-to-day world already, through Siri and Alexa and all Amazon and all the other ways. But one of the things that I love about the way that you've talked about it is that candidates are comfortable with this. They are more than comfortable, and the technology gets smarter. Just like with Programmatic and PandoLogic, the technology gets smarter in real time and over time. But last thing I think that you said, without even really kind of diving into it, is this also helps us with hiring bias. Implicit or explicit hiring biases that we have. Conversational AI strips away a lot of those things that maybe we didn't even know we were being biased about. And so I love that as well. And I love that marriage. Again, the marriage between the two is where we're really talking about today. But I love that just in Wade and Wendy's part of it, just helping people with DEI, helping them behind the scenes be less biased, using great technology.
Yeah, and you know what? I even want to tack on to that one point right there. And I was just thinking, what's the old adage that you hear in business? Location, location, location. So if we have the greatest technology in the world and it's hard for people to get there, what does it matter? But with PandoLogic, we are in the best location for each one of these candidates, where they are exactly as you were saying. And now we can furnish them with an experience. Just like a nice store has air conditioning blowing outside to get your attention because that's what you want.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I love it. 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 So I think Chastity is going to take us into kind of what it looks like, because this, first of all, y'all just announced the acquisition. I mean, what, 10, 12 days ago? So it's new. It's newish. I know that y'all worked behind the scenes for a long time on getting everything together, but you're gonna operate as two entities, continuing to serve all your customers while at the same time building everything together and putting everything together on one platform, etc. So,
Mhm.
Chastity, why don't you take us into that?
Yeah, happy to. And you're exactly right. Both of the platforms are available today for our clients, existing and interested clients. We can operate both standalone, but future state, the idea is a convergence of the two, right? And so, again, we talked about this yesterday, William, like it just makes sense. So the idea is to provide a fully automated job advertising campaigns that make continual adjustments to maximize applicant volume at the most efficient cost. Couple that with a more personalized and engaging application experience, higher click-to-applicant conversion rates, increased data transparency on the value of the source, personalized self-nomination capabilities. So think about like if you're going through a typical EEOC self-nomination form, right? How cold and impersonal that is. Our idea is to make that more candidate-centric, more personalized, to encourage that self-nomination and provide better metrics on the diversity of applicant pool by source. A diversity campaign for the sake of diversity doesn't really help anyone, right? So what it comes down to is the quality of the candidate, meeting them where they are, and then providing the best reporting possible and transparency possible around that. And then, of course, defining and surfacing quality applicants through, augmented screening, the ability to support a sophisticated screening process that's personalized and drives the right candidate experience. So to summarize that, really coupling Wade and Wendy's uniquely engaging and personal conversational AI technology with the concept of programmatic is going to drive those higher conversion rates. It's going to reduce the strain on recruiters by doing that first level qualification of screening. Of course, this positions our organization as the only programmatic advertising provider that can clearly define a quality applicant without the inherent bias that comes with human intervention. This is a huge differentiator in the market, and we know that this is going to continue to fuel growth for both of our respective organizations as we bring that all together. So I think we're going to jump in now. Or go ahead, William. Yeah.
No, before you do, and I can't wait to see software. So first of all, I don't want to be a road bump or speed bump in the way of that, but you've both talked about candidate experience and how important candidate experience is, because a programmatic, again, getting that ad in front of the right people at the right time is a better experience, right? No one wants to see a job ad that doesn't fit, right? That's like, why would I look at a job like that? In fact, I was reviewing LinkedIn recommendations for jobs for me, and I was like, really? I want to be a hostess? I'd probably be the worst hostess ever. That's probably not that it's beneath me. It's just I would be horrible at it. So obviously not well placed. But you both care deeply, both companies, and again, the combined entity cares deeply about creating a great candidate experience. So I can't wait for people to see software, but I just wanted to make sure that the audience kind of knows that this is deeply woven into y'all's fabric, into your fiber of making sure that you have a better experience for recruiters and hiring managers, et cetera, like stated and covered. But we also know that our bread and butter is candidates. And if we have a better experience for them, they see the right ads that are more appropriate to them, and they have a great experience with conversational AI, it's everybody wins.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And, the topic just of candidate experience, if you think back just a few years ago, it was a new conversation, right? It was a no-brainer. I mean, everybody knew the candidate experience was important, but we weren't really talking about it. And now it's an integral part of what we do every single day. It just makes sense. We don't go forward without considering the candidate and those needs. We believe that the way that we are approaching the market with PandoLogic and Wade and Wendy is going to be that next level of conversation. You don't go forward without the quality sourcing and quality candidate experience at the top of the funnel. So we're super excited about that. Now I know we're going to jump in here and take this for a little bit of a test drive. In case you haven't noticed, we love car analogies here at PandoLogic. So you probably see that recurring theme throughout this. But I want to start really by breaking down how this works, because it makes sense to take this approach just to kind of get our arms around what goes on behind the scenes. And then I'll show you the analytics dashboard. But if you look at how we go to market with our clients, it starts with a 5-step process. And so if you look toward the left side of the graphic that you're seeing on your screen here, it starts with job ad classification. So we're taking not just your job title and your location like you typically do with job boards. We're taking that a little bit deeper, and we're looking into that job description, and we're pulling out over 60 different data points to help us really understand how to classify your job. Because no two markets and no two jobs are the same, even though they may have the same location and the same job title. Everyone requires a little bit different approach. And so the objective is to get as granular as possible with those jobs, with those job locations, with the job description, and really uncover what the needs are. And that helps us more effectively go to market to find those candidates. So once we have those jobs classified, then we do what we call a performance prediction. So we can take your jobs, it's a snapshot in time that says, okay, based on the criteria that we pulled by parsing your job information, we believe that your jobs will perform in this manner. And so that prediction enables us to do a couple of things for our clients. And we also believe it's a key differentiator for us. But it allows us to say, okay, we're going to give you the confidence that the platform is going to do what we say it's going to do. Secondly, it's going to give us a foundation to build on, because, William, as we talked about earlier, the budget allocation piece of this is a big question mark, right? It's a big variable that we don't know how to solve for. Most employers don't know how to solve for, without the requisite data. So we're going to give you the data to help build out that recommended budget. We do all of this before you ever spend a penny with PandoLogic. It helps us align around what those goals should be and how we're going to go after the candidates that you're seeking. So once we have the budget allocated, we'll start targeting your jobs. And so as those jobs go out, we have the ability to look at different variants of the jobs, different locations, different job titles to help us cast a much wider net with your candidate pool and really hone in on what makes the most sense for your specific jobs. So once we find those candidates and start targeting them, that's when we start to really optimize the performance of the campaign. And the beauty of programmatic is that it gets smarter over time. So we're using real-time data, we're using candidate behavior, we're using historical data that we have, and bringing those all together to help inform how to bid and optimize your campaign over time. And then, of course, as that goes along, as I mentioned, it gets smarter and smarter and smarter. And eventually we can start to uncover the cyclical nature of your business and other variables that impact your hiring volumes at specific times. So, Lena, I want to jump in. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just a real quick question on conversions. The questions that you might get from hiring managers or recruiters when you're working with them. How do you kind of, for folks that don't know their conversions, again, it's a software engineering job, and they maybe they've hired 1,000, but they don't really have visibility and insight into what conversions look like for their organization. How do you all explain conversions to them? Like, again, you're dealing with quality, not quantity, but how do you explain conversions? And you might need to do that in the technology, but I just want to make sure that we touch upon conversions and conversion metrics, because I know that recruiters would probably need more, would love to have more insight there, especially into their own stuff.
Yeah, that's an awesome question. So conversions are, there's a lot of variables that go into conversion rates. A lot of times organizations will have good historical data with the job boards that they've used or specific practices, but we're looking at conversion rates in a couple of different ways, right? We're looking at it in the clicks to applications and applicant to hire. From a click to applicant standpoint, we have a lot of historical data on how applicants have converted over time through our platform. we've also got the ability to pull in market data to understand what the job market is doing today, what the labor market is doing, how competitive it is for specific jobs or verticals, you know, and how those jobs will perform across our network. That's all part of the performance prediction process.
Oh,
so
cool.
whenever we bring that to the client and say, okay, we think based on the current market data and past performance that we've seen, these particular jobs will have a specific click rate, meaning these are low converters, these are high converters. And then the apply process also has a lot to do with it as well. You know, depending on the client's application process, you know, may see a little bit lower conversion rate, higher quality. Depending on the type of job it is, much higher conversion, lower quality. So it really depends on the overall process.
And that's clicks to applicants. What was the second metric or the second conversion?
Yeah, applicants to hire. And so that's, yeah, the secondary metric that we're looking at as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So Elaine, I think I'm going to jump in and show the analytics dashboard. So do that now. Okay. You should be seeing our demo environment. Does everyone see that?
Oh, yeah. Looks wonderful.
Awesome. Okay. So this is just a snapshot of our demo environment. So very low budget here, but I want to point out some features here that enable you to be able to see real time what's going on with your advertising campaigns. So the campaign cycles typically run in 30 days. You'll see that here, as well as any live or lapsed campaigns that we've ran for your organization, and the amount of time that's left within that specific campaign. And so again, I want to emphasize that this is real time. You're seeing a live snapshot into how your candidates are responding to your job ads and how that's feeding back to the PandoLogic platform in terms of conversion rates and clicks and applicants. So from a summary standpoint, this is the aggregate summary of all your job data. So the number of jobs that you have available, the performance in terms of clicks, applicants, and conversion rates. But the same underlying technology that drives that performance prediction before we go live also lives within the UI. So this continues to inform the trajectory of the campaign over time. So we have a way to look in and see, okay, we believe based on the prediction we pulled earlier in the process that we'll receive the X number of clicks, Y number of applicants over time. Helps us keep an eye on how the campaign's performing. It's one of many ways in which we do that, but it's also updated every single day. So you have that visibility as well into how that campaign is tracking over time. And then of course, a cost analysis. So the budget you're starting with, what we're spending, what we have spent to date, and then the aggregate cost per click and cost per applicant. But as you go down, you can start to see that at the job level. And so you can see, of course, the performance metrics, which are the same, but down to the job level, as well as that prediction, which lives right here. Now, William, I want to go back to the question you asked earlier when we talked about conversion rates and, just general traffic to the jobs. This click range here is an indication of how, let's just call it the supply and demand of the candidates. These are low because they're difficult roles to fill. If this were something, fairly easy to fill, you would see high here. And if it is average, medium. But that does live here as well so that you can get a good idea of what to expect and how to inform the campaign strategy. You also have the ability to change the status of these jobs. Now, most of our clients will do this from within their XML feed or through their ATS, but you can activate or deactivate a job from here, as well as change the priority of the campaign. So, or for a particular job. So if you decide that this technical project coordinator is a high priority job that you need to fill tomorrow, you can prioritize this and we will automatically attribute additional budget to that role to fill it faster. Now, one of the great benefits of having all of this data at your fingertips is the ability to report on it instantly. So I'm going to show you a snapshot of what that looks like in real time. So when you click this download button here, it will bring you to an exportable snapshot of what your campaign is doing at this time. You can see the campaign cycle details. I didn't really talk much about job expansions, but I touched on it a little bit. Where we can take variants of your original job and essentially cast a wider net. And so a customer service position has job title and location expansions applied to it, meaning we're going to look within a specific geographic radius of Seattle, Washington, and try to capture that candidate search behavior as accurately as possible. And we can do this in let's say this one is a 10, 20-mile radius. I don't know for certain because I'm not familiar with the area. But we can cast out that net to those locations and do a series of A/B tests in real time to see what candidates are searching for, how they're searching, what titles they're searching for. And if those particular variants aren't performing, we won't attribute any budget to them. So it's a really great way for clients to get more bang for their buck without the risk of posting each one of those job title, location, and variants independently, or as if they were their own job. But I'd say the best part of this report is that you can start to see some insight into your performance by source. And I know this has typically been a little bit of a black box if you've ever used Programmatic before, but we're source agnostic. We don't care where your jobs go, as so long as they're performing and they're performing at the best cost possible. And so in this particular client circumstance, we've got I believe like a top 35 that are performing. This list may be a lot larger. It may be 100. But you can see the clicks, applicants, and conversion rates by each one of those individual sources to give you the most insight possible into how your jobs are performing and where those clients are coming from.
It's interesting because the clicks and applicants on this particular one both track on the two columns pretty high, but the conversion is lower.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like which when you're talking with talent acquisition folks, what do they care the most about? Are they looking at? I mean, they care about all of it clearly, but what do they care more about the conversion rate or the number of quality applicants? What do they? Because again, they're looking at all of these things, and they're probably just having this visibility and insight into. Wait a minute, Linza. Really? Oh my God, I can't believe that that's really a source, and it's converting at 12, almost 13%. That's amazing. How do you coach them as to when they look at this data, what's really important? And again, this is real time. And as you refresh in 15 seconds from now, it could change. It can change that fast. So how do you coach them?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. I love that. So it's a couple of different things, right? It varies by client. It varies by job type. It varies by geography. So in the case of like healthcare, for example, conversion rates that range from 1% to 4% are considered really good because that's a really, really competitive market right now. In some cases, depending on how a client classifies an applicant, that applicant conversion rate of 20% may not necessarily be all that great because it just means you're getting a high volume of applicants, right? And so it just really depends on how the job is classified and what the end result is for the client. So I gave you a little bit of an amorphous answer there, but
no. You mentioned it previously, but it also might relate to the rapidity in which they need that job filled. You know what I mean? Like they might look at it and go, you know what? I care about conversions, of course, and I'm going to dig into that stuff later to see really what worked. But right now, I need more applicants. So I'm going to be greedy and just go, okay, Tauru, fantastic. Let's spend more money with them and get more applicants. Even though it's converting at maybe not as a higher rate as some of these others, I just need more applicants. But that's driven by the recruiter, by the hiring manager, but just by saying, again, with data and with this insight, now you can make those determinations. Let's spend more money. Let's reroute some of the budget, spend more money with Tauru and get more applicants. Okay, that's fine. But you've got insight now that you can make those decisions.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the beauty of this is we know instantly if those sources aren't performing. And so we're not going to leave your jobs out there if they're not performing on a particular source. And I would say that the ancillary piece of this is that, likely many of the sources that you see pop up are not sources that you have attributed a great deal of spend to in the past.
100%.
Now it could be, but not always, right? So you're getting access to a network that you might not necessarily have had access to in the past because you put all of your eggs in one or two job boards.
Yeah, the big shift for HR and TA in looking at programmatic is, 100 years ago, you'd take your $400 and you put a job on Career Builder, and it was there for the whole month. And you could get one applicant, you get 1,000 applicants, you get 10,000 applicants, but it was there for a month. And so it was time-based, and there was a fixed cost to it. Okay. This is looking at that model, destroying that and saying, we're going to put it on Career Builder for 5 minutes. And if it works, fantastic. We'll double down on it. I'm using 5 minutes as just as an example, but we're going to put it there. But it's only going to stay there if it works. If it ceased to work, I'm not picking on Career Builder, by the way. I'm just any of these job sources because y'all are agnostic. If it works, fantastic. If it doesn't work for that particular job at that particular moment, you go to the places where it does work and you spend more money there. And so there's, Jesse's one of the things that you're eliminating is waste. That people like that in that old model, again, it could have been a great experience and you could have gotten fantastic candidates and it could have worked out, or it could have just been $400 completely wasted and you got no candidates, or the candidates you got didn't work out. It's just a much more refined way of looking at where candidates are looking for jobs, where you're putting the jobs in front of them, and what's working in real time. I mean, I know we've said real time probably 50 times so far, but it's kind of important because that's the not just for PandoLogic for the platform in general, but for job to job, for source to source. It's giving you that insight in real time so that you're not wasting any of your valuable time, money, or resources on things that just aren't working.
Yeah, you nailed it. And I'm gonna blow your mind here, but we can make these optimizations, or I talked about the concept of A/B testing. Right. We can make 7,000 optimizations in 60 seconds. So if you've got thousands of jobs out there, just imagine the number of decisions that are being made at any given time to ensure that your jobs are being put in the right place at the right time at the right cost.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah. And again, what's great is, that we wouldn't have historically talked about this as being a bias, but it was, and it is a bias, a source of hire, where if you've always used again, let's just pick on Career Builder, I guess. If you've always used Career Builder and you've never kind of opened yourselves up, I see some things down here like hired customer service, I would assume that's .com, and that's just a job board for just that specific thing. If you just use Career Builder, then you've missed candidates. And we're not thinking of that from a DEI perspective, but we should. Just like we talked with Max about, kind of we're eliminating some of these either explicit or implicit hiring biases. And this is source of hiring bias. It's like, hey, listen, if it works, jobs in Vermont, accounting jobs in Vermont.com, fantastic. Yeah, that's a great source of hire, and you're getting great quality candidates from it, done. So I love that too. And again, you haven't really explicitly talked about that as a bias, but it is, and you're just destroying that. So I love that.
Yeah, thank you. One of my favorite sources is allthetopbananas.com. It always makes me laugh when I see that out on some of these client source reports. But I've never in all the time I've been doing this, I've not come across a client that's contracting with them directly. So it's always kind of funny when I see that one because it's such a unique name. But
right.
Well, I love this conversation and where it's going. I think it makes a lot of sense to bring Max in here and talk about 100%. What that next step is. So if you think about this being tip top of the funnel, that natural segue is goes into how Wade and Wendy operates and what they bring from a candidate experience standpoint. Max, I'm going to flip things over to you to get started.
So as y'all are shifting the technology, and Max is going to pull up his demo environment, one of the things I want to make sure that the audience understands is on programmatic, it's getting them to this place, right? and then getting, once they, oh, that's interesting, that sounds like something I'd like to look at, click, then they go into it. Now, once they're into it, then now Wade Wendy and Conversational AI creates a better experience for them. So, in one half of our discussion, it's been about how do you get folks quality traffic to the right place. And now that they're at that place, QMax, now that you've got them there, now they can, you can turn them on to a better candidate experience in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And candidate experience is such an important thing, and I think the reason is because it's symbiotic. It's one of the few truly symbiotic things where you've never seen a candidate, someone like a friend who's looking for a job, and you're like, oh, lucky you. It's not an enjoyable thing. And at the same time, by improving the candidate experience, you are bringing in more people. It is a business benefit. And very rarely in HR and any place in business, I think, is there truly such an organic overlap of something that's helping beyond the business and helping. So exactly as we were saying here, I'll kind of jump into the conversation now. But to set the tone, I'm a candidate. If you can see my screen, we're looking at a chat from the Acme Corporation, like from the Looney Tunes. But basically, I'm a candidate who's going about my day. I'm looking for my next career step. And I see posted very easily for me, of course, a role by the Acme Corporation that meets my background because it's posted by PandoLogic. So when I'm rifling through these job boards and I see all these opportunities available, when I click on this particular one for Acme, rather than being brought to an apply page, I'm brought to this chat, and it's available on a web browser right here. So you'll see this is a live link. This is my Chrome window. There's no download, no extension, anything necessary. I click on this live, easy link, Acme Core Sales Manager, meet Wendy. And I see their logo, the position represented. And then Wendy, this AI recruiter, kicks off the chat. This is right from me clicking on LinkedIn, for example. And Wendy says, hey, thanks for joining me to chat about the sales manager role at Acme. I'm Wendy, the AI recruiter, and my job is simple. It's to find the right people to join great teams. So here's what this is about, here's what you'll get, and here's what I'll learn. So I can click to engage. Hi, Wendy, tell me more. All right, so she says the chat should last less than 5 minutes. It's gonna work with yes, no, multi-select, open-ended questions. Sound good? Cool, just setting basic details or expectations. She asks to have my resume and my social profiles handy for the hiring team because they're going to see the responses. If I have any troubleshooting issues, let's do it, but all good, let's get started. Okay, great, we'll tell you a little bit about the role. So Acme is looking for a sales manager to join their team over in Toontown. The sales manager is going to be responsible for achieving growth and hitting sales targets. Your responsibilities include designing and managing, strategic business, owning and recruiting objectives, presenting sales revenue, expense reports, etc. Just basics about the position. If you would like to know more about the role, please enter your email address. You can also use this as a user ID. So I'm going to give her my email address. She's worked with me before. You'll see how she can work really easily here. Thanks, Max. Let me tell you about the company. So Acme makes a broad variety of outlandish products that backfire at the worst times. Their offerings include the exploding tennis ball, the do-it-yourself tornado kits, of course, the anvil. Would you like to see a quick video about their products and services? So sure. So companies love to display a day in the life about the role, about the organization, just to bring the opportunity to life a little bit better. So now while going through this conversation, I can also see what's going on at the company. So see the video, pretty cool, huh? Well, yeah. All right, now here's a little extra about the role. They have awesome perks and benefits. Here's some compensation details. Here's some perks of working at the company, awesome benefits, training, leadership, etc. with Wile E. Coyote. And now she asks, are you interested in this position? So keep in mind, she's speaking to anyone who's coming through these domains. If I click no, Wendy collects feedback from candidates, which is really helpful. If I click yes, of course, we continue on with the conversation, and this looks like a cool position. So awesome, I can share information with the team. Let me just confirm a few quick things before I put you in touch with the hiring manager. So first, are you still employed at PandoLogic? I pulled that from LinkedIn, so she's noting the update to my LinkedIn profile. Yeah, I am with Pando. Okay, cool. Are you in sales? I am. All right, what's the best phone number to reach you? I'll give her mine, and we also have technology in place to make sure we're only getting valid phone numbers.
Do you have that
Hey,
with to validate emails as well, Max?
yeah, we have like I think it's like a 2 or 3 step
Yeah,
verification with other
good,
partners that we have. So it's pretty clean coming through.
cool.
Yeah. So anyway, do you have a resume that I can share? So yep, I've got a resume. Now, what's really cool is if I'm on my phone, like for example, for me personally, Max, notice I don't have an easy time uploading documents from my phone.
Right,
So if I'm
right.
doing this on my cell phone, I can click no, and Wendy follows up with me over the next few days. Like, hey, can I just grab that from you? Just need to click and drag. So anyone who's really interested, they're not missing the step. But I am on my desktop, so to add my resume, it's super easy. Just click, drag, and drop, and send. All right, do you have a LinkedIn? So she's getting these basics before she even starts really qualifying me. I do have a LinkedIn. All right, can you verify it here? Yep. And again, anything like this that the candidate doesn't have in front of them, Wendy can collect later on. All right,
And
so she
Wendy
starts.
does that does she do that through text or through email, or does it matter to
It
collect
can
that?
be either. Typically, it's through email though.
Okay, good.
Yep. Yeah, it's, you know what, the way I almost think of it, William, is like I think of it like bowling bumpers. Like when you have
Yeah,
bowling bumpers up, like no one can miss. And the idea is Wendy has a lot of guardrails to make sure candidates don't fall
right.
off. Awesome. So now she's got me in the role of this. Like I'm interested, I've given some information. She starts qualifying me. And she says, which of the following apply to you? Select all that apply. So these are just basics from the job description here. 3 to 5 years of experience. I go to workshops. I can have basically, what else is really cool is when we work with a company, when they let us know from this kind of candidate routing, like for example, these are nice to haves. These 3 are absolute needs to haves. That helps us route and determine who would be the best, caliber for you. So I send that to Wendy. Okay, are you authorized to work in the States? So now we're getting those similar questions from the application, but I'm rolling with it. It doesn't feel forced. Okay, great. Which of the following licenses and certification do you have? I have a couple of these. Okay, great. What's the highest level of education? Bachelor's. All right. Have you ever managed teams? I have. So nice. Can you tell me about your people management experience? I'll say I oversaw a team of 8 AEs in my previous role. All right, great. How would you categorize your leadership style? And I'll say I try to inspire my team by demonstrating my work ethic.
I love this, Max, because it's not prompting you. Like it's
Well,
not giving you an option of saying, "Oh, I'm this or I'm that." It's letting you type in like as you're talking, like, "Oh, here's how I try to take this."
yeah, totally, William. I mean, that's 5 years of content development.
Right.
This is an AI
Good point.
recruiter who's delivering a message written by people. It's
Right.
really intended to do that. So I tell her, I try to inspire folks. And she even has a real answer here. And I'll show you this. It's an easy trigger, but she says, nice, Max. It sounds like you really know how to motivate a team. And while this is like a simple trigger function, what it does is it makes the candidate feel reciprocated. They feel validated. It's not just a give. There is some sort of a back forth happening.
Right.
So can you tell me about a time where you could rally the troops? And again, this is a very generic conversation. We customize every one of them. But I'll say I kept the full team hitting quota through COVID. As a hiring manager, you should be really excited seeing that one. All right, excellent. Well, Acme wants people who are ready to play a pivotal role in shaping this industry of fictitious weaponry. So why do you think it'd be a good fit? Keep in mind, I'm sharing this with the team. I've wanted to work here my whole career.
I like that disclosure, by the way, that I'm sharing this with the hiring team. That's genius, because people are comfortable interacting with bots, especially more today in our personal lives than ever. But that just is a simple thing. It's nuanced. It's just like, hey, remember, just by the way, everything that we're doing here, the other folks are going to be looking at it at one point.
Yeah, you know, it's so funny you mention that because as you can imagine, I've gone through this, what, 7,000 times? But even going through it here, I kind of get excited. I get a little
Yeah,
wrapped up.
that's
And
right. Well, we all do.
Yeah, but a big component of facilitating a proper, exchange like this is honesty, where
Yeah,
Wendy always acknowledges that she's an AI recruiter and then wins people over with a positive experience. Now, if the positive experience is so positive you forget she's AI, that's exactly why the reminder's in there.
that's
It's
right.
just, hey,
That's
one
right.
more before.
Yeah.
All right, anything else to share? I'll say, nope, thanks. You know what, I'll even leave in the typo because sometimes companies want to see typos if they happen, but we can keep rolling with them anyway, you see. She goes, great, thanks for chatting with me, Max. And now at this point, I've spoken with Wendy, I've shared my information. Here's that voluntary disclosure form, the EEOC form we were talking about. And at this point, I've developed a little bit of a rapport here with the company, with the AI recruiter. This is what we see. I feel more comfortable answering these questions now as opposed to here's a government form or, I'm on the phone
Right.
with you for 7 minutes and 20 seconds and you're asking me about my disabilities. Whoa, that is not how any interaction of mine typically goes. So as we were saying, candidates tend to feel more comfortable filling this out. For the demo's sake, we're just going to skip past it. And as you'll see, what's really cool is Wendy is going to route me as a qualified candidate here. And as the response, she says, brilliant, well done. Based on your answers, Max, we saw that you're pre-qualified for this job, and we want to offer you an opportunity to schedule an interview immediately by clicking below. And now in this instance, yeah, it's super cool. But what's cool, even cooler, is we can have this be a link for the candidate to apply. And then everything they've already told Wendy is already filled out. So it's not redundant. It can be a link to a recruiter. Even it can say, we think you're awesome. I'm going to run this by the hiring manager and I'll get back to you for next steps. And we can send the candidate profile to the ATS, just like a pre-applied candidate, thumbs up, thumbs down. And then we learn from that, we can take the next actions for you. You also don't have to have Simon Cowell. It's kind of funny. We were looking for a non-snarky, congratulatory little image here, and Simon Cowell was the only non-snarky one, which that's pretty ironic.
He's a little counterintuitive.
It's bidirectional. So for the audience, it's bidirectional. You can obviously see as Max took us through it, and it's highly personalized. And it also, the technology is always learning. That's one thing that in both cases, both with PandoLogic and with Wade and Wendy, is that AI, the reason that these things are driven this way is that they're learning, and they're learning from every single experience, every candidate experience, every time that we interact with recruiters. So it's just getting smarter. While you're sleeping, it's getting smarter. So thanks, Max. That was wonderful.
Yeah, by all means.
Awesome. William, I want to point out one thing really quick as we wrap here with our last minute. Max is going to kill me for calling him out on this again, but Max is actually a Wade and Wendy hire, meaning use the platform experience Wendy through the interview process. And I point that out because, he can speak to this better than anyone about what that candidate experience means. And then, of course, going into the organization, truly understanding the gravity of what's been done from a development standpoint. So I want to just point that out.
Yeah, I know that is your favorite story, but it is a candidate experience to the buy-in to the business, the whole thing. I remember it was, 2.5 or 3 years ago, and I was an open candidate on the market, and I just applied to everything. You forget where you click after a while. I remember taking phone calls, and they'd be like, hey, are you still available? And I'm like, yes, who is this again? Like, you don't even remember. It's the same 8 questions over, where you're from, what have you done? Can you tell me about yourself? Have you done this before? And it's repetitive. And then one day I get an email from Wendy at wadeandwendy.ai pointing out my background, what I've done, what's been impressive. Click to learn more. I click and it's, oh my God, I can't, I'm talking to it right here. And it was easy, it was fluid. I know that I got distracted in the middle of this conversation and then was brought back in. And then a few weeks later, I'm starting at the company when wait, this is what you guys do. That was fascinating. This was brilliant. Why isn't everybody using it? And they say, well, that's going to be your job, is to get everybody to use it. So here we are.
Love it.
That's awesome. I'm so glad you told that story. That is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Hey, happy to have it.
Well, that wraps
Well,
up what we have, William.
I was about to say
So
we're
turn
right
it
at
back
the
up to you.
edge. Yeah, we're right at the edge. We probably looking at the clock. I'm not sure we even have time for Q&A. Why don't we, Ashley? Why don't we gather all the questions and then respond to folks post webinar?
we can definitely do that. So if you have any additional questions, please feel free to send those to ashley@recruitingdaily.com. Any questions you have, we will answer, or we'll send over to Max and Chastity and have them answer and send back to you. Also, please keep an eye out on your inbox. We are going to send a copy of this recording. I'm sorry, excuse me. And anything additional from Wade and Wendy and PandoLogic that will come in handy. So,
And Chastity and Max, this was wonderful. And I love looking at software. This was the best part. For me, this was actually looking at PandoLogic and looking at Wade and Wendy in action was my favorite part. So thank y'all so much for the time today. And thanks for the audience for y'all for being here. And we appreciate you.
Thank you,
thanks,
William.
everyone.
Great.
Take care.
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.